we'll start this thing up as I admit people to the waiting room. Welcome. My name is Brandon Wells, and I am the assistant program lead here at the Roanoke New River Valley Project Healing Waters program. Our program lead is here with us tonight as well, Fred Paddock. Welcome. And we have quite a few local participants. Always great to see you all. Mark, Matt, Sayward, Becky, Kathy, Luther. It's wonderful to see the locals. Tom, of course, you're becoming a regular on here. Thank you for coming. And anybody new, welcome as well. We're happy to have you. Tonight is the Quill Gordon dry fly, perhaps top 5 dry flies for our area. I might even hazard to say top 3 even. And now's the time to be tossing these things. I've been seeing quite a few of these mayflies dipping down to the water here, even just on my short journeys to the water. So that is always a great thing to see out and about. I got Matt coming in here as well. If I do mute you inadvertently, it's because I'm getting some kind of feedback or otherwise something that is just messing with the audio. So no hard feelings. If you are tying along tonight, hopefully you received a bunch of supplies from us. Our assistant program lead, Kathy, is the chair of getting things out to people. She does a fantastic job of that. Again, the Quill Gordon. So we'll be tying with a light brown camel colored thread, if you have it. And my hook tonight is a 14, but you can tie this 12 down to 18 if you're feeling real froggy. We're glad you're here. Some of the supplies you'll need are some dun hackle, which is that nice kind of cream colored situation there. Obviously your hook. Our wing will be mallard flank. Ours is pretty light. I would even hazard to say this is natural colored, but you can get mallard, of course, dyed if you need to match a hatch in your area that maybe has a different coloration to the mayfly wing. And then the piece that we'll be using tonight that we really have never utilized on this show in the year that we've been in business is a stripped peacock quill. So we'll go into kind of the techniques for that and what that looks like, the best way or the way that I do it, and of getting all those little slices of peacock off the quill to get it ready to be wrapped around your hook. So again, thank you for coming in tonight. We've got more coming in as I go here. And we're glad to have you. Fred, I believe, internet willing, is going to give us a quick down dirty kind of history of the Quill Gordon, where it came from, why it's so great, and we'll go from there. So Fred, I'm going to hand it on over to you, man.
All right, thank you. Basically, the Quill Gordon was created by Theodore Gordon sometime before 1906. With his correlation with Frederick Halford, who was from the Chalk Street, from England. They talked amongst each other, and Frederick Halford flies in England. And Theodore basically created some flies to handle the faster waters of the Catskills. He lived in New York City, and he suffered respiratory issues, and from the less than precipitous, pretty much as a hermit in the Anson Night House, which is near the Neversink River, and actually the town of Bradley. And the Anson House currently is 100 feet in the bottom of the Neversink Reservoir because it was one of the houses that were condemned, abandoned, and filled in for the reservoir to supply New York City with fresh water. Considering the origins of the American fly fishing in general, Gordon's disciples include, Ray Stannard, Herman Christian, later on Harry and Elsie Darby, Walt and Winnie Dett, later Mary the Dett's daughter, Art Flick, Rube Cross, Preston Jennings, Ed Van Put, and legend Dave Brandt. But the Quill Gordon basically was to handle faster moving waters and replicate the mayfly, the Quill Gordon. And the hackles pretty good proportions. And you could also trim the bottom of the hackle down to let it float a little, let it sit in the water a little lower, catching insects. And there's a little history.
Thank you, Fred. Appreciate that very much, sir. All right, Fred, you're cut off. Fred lives in a place where internet is not plentiful, and we don't fault him for that. But when his lips are still moving like a poorly translated Japanese film, we just cut him off, and we appreciate you, Fred, for all you offer. I'm going to zoom in now on the fly here. I got the hook and the vise, and if you are playing along at home, I hope you're doing the same. Let's talk about some material prep. If you're like me, you like to have it all laid out. And so first and foremost, let's talk about the peacock quill. So if you got one from Kathy, if you got the setup, this is basically what comes in the bag, just your average, nothing special peacock quill. There's many methods. We'll go from simple to complex. Simple is holding one end, using your fingernails if you have any, and just basically gently running them down the quill until all those little pieces of fuzz eventually detach themselves from the quill. It's a delicate endeavor. I experimented with that briefly and then went over to my second favorite method, which is the pencil eraser. The pencil eraser is pretty neat because it's a little bit more predictable and has a little more grip on the pieces you're trying to remove. So I would basically just lay the quill down on a flat surface. In this case, it was the lid of my laptop. And then I took my pencil eraser and just ran that down the quill. And slowly but surely, you'll find that all the pieces that you're trying to, quote, erase, just pull free. And so in the last 10 seconds I've been talking to you, you can see where I've removed the good stuff, and all that's left now is the quill. You can see where they used to be and now where they're not. And so that should probably spotlight my video, huh? It's a good idea. There we go. That's one way. I think there's another way that involves like some sort of chemical, like bleach or some craziness. I don't think that's necessary based on the fact that I could do this with a pencil eraser, but to each their own. The next slice of prep I did was the wing or the mallard flank that we're going to be tying in. That's a feather that typically looks something like this. Has that nice patterning, that has nice color variations. I get rid of all of the fuzz and I'm left with this. And then I will peel back, kind of like you're going to wrap this. If you're with me a while, we tied the mallard minnow. Those were good times. And we used quite a few mallard flank feathers. And I would do this. I'm going to get rid of this super tip top triangle here. I feel like it gives us a better divided wing further down the line. I've seen tires not do this step. Again, personal preference, totally up to you, but I do it, and that's okay. If you do have questions, please hit the chat. You can unmute yourself if you want to share. I don't have that much micromanagement in my body, so please don't feel like I'm shutting down the chat. It's just a whole lot easier to mute people so we don't get the feedback and the fits and starts of audio issues. So for me, the first step after I have a nice little base of thread laid down is to tie in the wing, or what will soon be the wing. And that will be the mallard flank. And so I'm going to run my thread up, and you can test fit your size of your wing as you tie it in. So let's lay this wing material, soon to be wing material, down. Right, so I've taken that mallard and I'm just running it forward as best I can. And I'm going to tie it so that the wing is about the length of the shank of the hook. I say about because that is a rough estimate We'll fine tune it once we get it kind of lightly cinched down. Definitely do your pinch wrap here if you're into that. That pinch wrap will serve you rather well. And your tie-in point, I would say, is about 2/3 of the way forward, maybe 2 hook eyes behind the eye of the hook. Real loose wraps at first, so you can kind of see what the wing will look like when it's standing. How about we get a better angle here, Brandon? That's much better. So you can do like a quick dry run here and check the length of your wing of your mayfly and kind of say, yeah, that looks about right. And if you like it, run a few more wraps to secure and then trim your excess. And a few wraps of thread to lock down. All right, now we're coming in front of the wing. Pull that wing back and a thread dam there to help with standing that wing up. Any errant barbs can be pulled out right about now. The next detail is rather important. That's splitting the wing. So you have a nice little stack here, but we have a mayfly that has a wing on each side. So using a dubbing needle or some sort of sharp pointed device that you may have at your disposal, now is when we kind of divide those wings in half, and we'll run some figure eights between it to, oh, come on in. We'll run some figure eight wraps between it to keep the wings separated. Let's see here. I'm happy with that. So grab half that you've separated and run a gentle wrap right through the middle of your wing material. And all this is going to do is just kind of give that division. Once it gets wet, it'll help things stay separated. And now they should kind of want to go to either side. Should. All right, now let's run our thread back to the back. And it is time for tail. Y'all are way too quiet. It's making me nervous. Maybe I should unmute Fred again. What else? Tail. gotta laugh. Tail, here we go, tail. So there's two tail methods. If you're familiar with fly tying materials, these are called fibbits or tibbits, or I think it's fibbits. I'm 99.6% sure it's fibbits. I like these because they quite literally look like a mayfly tail. They're super fine. They really hold up when thrown around for a while, but we didn't send those home in your packets. And so I'm going to use the items that came home in your packets, and that would be just some strands of hackle. Very delicate and very light, as you can see here. I want these longer pieces towards the end of your done hackle. And you're going to want to grab maybe 4 or 6 slices of the barbs here. And from those 4 or 6, we will make a tail. Should look something like this once you have them grabbed. Very delicate. All right, those are going to go directly on top of the hook shank. And we're going to do that same split again, where you divide them up, run wrap a thread through there to keep them separated, and then you're good for that step of the fly. Another pinch wrap to get things sitting on top of the shank as they should. Adjust now for length if you need to. I've also seen people at this step not even bother dividing the tail. I can just use any random hackle for this. No more waste materials. I have a pinched or crushed hackle for my streamers. I would say, Phil, I mean, if you're staying on the lighter side of the color spectrum, I wouldn't recommend probably grizzly hackle. That's just not coloring. The same coloring isn't really happening there. You want something more of a cream color, light brown type of situation. I'm doing about 3 hook gaps, Matt. So 3 times the hook gap is the formula I typically use. 3 hook gaps. It's very scientific. Appreciate your messages, everybody. Are you tying in both at the same time? Mac, I just got your message. You are probably referring to the tail. Wings. Yep, both wings are in there from the same stack of mallard flank. And then we just cut them in half with thread. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, let's divide these tails up. So this is very delicate and fine work. Your patience will be tested. That's okay, because that's the beauty of a dry fly. But if it's well tied, you reap the benefits. So let's try to split this tail so that we have equal parts on each side. And once you have that, just a quick wrap to split them. Not a race. And now in a perfect world, you've got a tail that's split in half or close to half. Again, this step was not done by every fly tire. I saw many a tire that just left them splayed out like that. Perfectly acceptable. And I just ran 1 loop through the middle of them to split them up. I've got extra here coming off from my hackle. I'm going to clean that off now. And now you want to kind of focus on that profile before we tie in our peacock quill. So let's see if we can get things kind of looking real smooth. Like, for example, I have this mess sticking out from my wing trimmings. I'll just snatch that down there. And we want a really nice profile because we're going to be building that body up with the peacock quill. And that quill doesn't really forgive us very much for profile issues. It's going to really stick to what we have. So we want that nice profile going forward of a buggy body. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints? Let's hear it. I'm gonna take a little pause here now and talk about technique while some of us get caught up. A lot of my research showed that this fly is best fished kind of in a skittering pattern. And when I say that, I mean not so much dead drifted. As you get near the end of your drift, maybe giving it a twitch here and there. If you actually watch these bugs in their natural habitat, they hit the surface of the water quite a few times within a 2 or 3 foot square area as they try to fight gravity and get up off the surface. And so it would not hurt you to give these things some life as they are on the surface of the water. And that fancy fly tying term is skittering them across the surface. So just a little tip there as we catch up. The next step will be tying in that quill that you erased the barbs from. So hopefully you have that ready. I did, and now it has managed to disappear from my tying bench. So I will be making another one, which is perfectly fine because I have my pencil eraser right here. And again, for that technique, you're going to start with something like this. You're going to give it some erasing, and that is what you'll end up with, that nice clean quill. The eraser will get gummed up with barbs as you go. So just see that they're all sticking to it. So just, you know, that's what pants are for. May have to rotate the quill to get all of them as you move down the length of it. Now I've got a rather clean looking peacock quill there, which is great. All right, hackle pliers. Get your hands on hackle pliers if possible. Now's the time we're going to use them. I recommend you use them. I'm going to get rid of the end of my peacock quill here, that off-colored item, and I'm going to tie it in. And I'll run my thread forward there right behind the wing. This quill is going to lay pretty neat way where it really gives the impression of a segmented body. It's even got a little sheen or shine to it, and it's uncanny, the similarity to the body of a mayfly. Is there something else we use instead of peacock quill? I really don't think, Mac. I have not seen another material that would do well in this situation. It's just so delicate that I haven't seen another material that would work well. I mean, if you had some thin skin maybe and a lot of patience, you might be able to wrap thin skin around here if it was narrow enough. Maybe latex again, but I think latex is you're going to end up pretty heavy. So that probably wouldn't be the best idea either, now that I think it through appropriately. So I want to push for the old peacock quill if you have it. If you don't, just do thread. I guess you could really just do thread. Color it up if you need to with a marker or something to get it that darker color if you're tying with a lighter thread like I am. But the peacock quill is the way to go. Peacock hurl, excuse me. All right, let's carry on. I'm going to start wrapping this forward. Hackle pliers recommended. I had the chance to try out another type of hackle pliers made by Loon, and they didn't do this fun pivoting situation. And I have found that that is a great feature to have as you're wrapping. So just something to think about. I like a lot of the other Loon products for tying. I like their scissors. I enjoy their bobbin ergonomics, but the hackle pliers, not quite as cool as these that I got from Healing Waters. All right, we're wrapping the quill forward now, gently and carefully. and I'm hitting my camera. We do have a different camera coming to the Salem program, which is exciting. I believe it's going to be something with a little bit better zoom capabilities, kind of a manual zoom situation, which I'm excited for. And as you can see, if I don't hit the camera, you want those touching turns to look like you really have a body on this bug. And you'll see why the profile of our under wraps were so important. Again, this fly and the quill really shows your profile underneath it. So you want to try to pay special attention to that. But that's looking pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, Fred's got that right now. We're going to use it across the program here for getting you guys videos as best we can. And once you're up there to your tie-in point where your thread ended, let's just capture that quill with a couple wraps, and we will be done with the peacock side of things, which is a relief because it really is pretty fragile and easily unfurls all the way back to the tie-in. Couple more wraps for security. And leave your thread hanging right there where we will now throw in our hackle. Our hackle is going to give us that leggy situation going. In this case, although it's a dry fly, there isn't always a big push with, what is this mess hanging out right here? What is that? That's going to bother me. There isn't always a big push for, that ultra super uber dry fly hackle like you see on our tinier flies. So this isn't really what we're going for here, that really tiny hackle. The dun hackle, and if you look at a mayfly, they got some big old spindly legs that are just everywhere. And so this type of hackle is perfectly acceptable. I know I have preached about the quality of that real tiny, here's some grizzly that I was referring to that just is, I mean, the size of that hackle is just teeny. That is not what we're going for with this fly. We want a little bit more bushy effect. And so we're going to go with hackle that's a little bit larger just because of the legs on a mayfly are much larger than your average dry. So let's prep that hackle. Dun hackle, as it's called. Again, it's like a cream color, good looking hackle. And we can be pretty choosy. We're going to obviously get rid of this bottom third, that webbing, that's trash. So we'll just yank that off for now, strip that away as we prep this feather. What do we got here? What do we got here? We got Fred with some knowledge. Yeah, varnish, thread, then wrap the peacock quill, then varnish over. Yeah, I was gonna put some a little bit of UV over top of here, Fred, but yeah, that's a good call. A little bit of hard as nails situation, hard as hull. Are you talking like a maritime product, Fred? Varnish? Clear nail polish. Okay, gotcha. All right, so my feather is almost prepped. We're going to now get it ready for wrapping forward. And so I'm going to pull those back, much like that. I'm going to be a little picky here. I don't love the length of these first few good hackle feathers. They're a little too long and compared to their friends there. So I'm just going to rip them off. And now we're going to be able to tie in our hackle for legs. Tying that in right behind my wings. We will probably have 2 wraps behind the wing and then 2 to 3 wraps in front of the wing before all is said and done. Get that hackle wrapped real good so it doesn't try to escape. Hackle pliers again. For peace of mind, mostly. And I'm going to wrap towards the camera. Once again, apologize if I smack it. Two or three behind and 2 or 3 after. Mine started to slip off, so I'm backing it off a bit. There we go, it's behaving itself now. Right as you touch up against those wings, pull them backwards and continue wrapping in front. Before capturing with your thread, which is sitting right there at the front, patiently waiting. Two wraps for peace of mind while you get rid of what was attached to your hackle pliers. Nothing crazy to clean up the head. We don't need a big head on this thing. We're going to do a whip finish or 2 and be done. Because again, this is a dry, we don't want a bunch of bulk. So anywhere we can cut bulk in the form of tying a big old head or multiple wraps, we're going to try to minimize that as best we can so that she floats happily on the surface film. One more for the commandant. That's it. Now, Fred was talking about varnish. I will come along now, pull my hackle forward, do a little something back here on the back of the fly where I want that peacock curl to be nice and shiny and a little more durable. See if we can get that. So right there, I'll put that on a dubbing needle for accuracy. Fred was saying that he likes the clear nail polish, to each their own. And then I will also follow up with a little dab will do you on the thread wraps at the very top of the fly, again for durability. And this kind of gives a little depth to the fly as well. It does kind of give you that effect of that glistening buggy body. Just don't get carried away with this fly because you don't want any extra weight. All right, I'll hit that with the torch. Not at the camera. And one more right where I whip finished. All right, now we primp and preen a bit. Now, Fred was saying that he does like to kind of trim off some of the hackle to let the fly ride a little differently. That is personal preference, of course. I like the idea. If you think about it, the fly doesn't have legs popping up amongst its wings. So that is something to think about. But try it both ways. You know, if you find that you're not getting strikes, that's a quick and easy edit you can make to this fly on, you know, riverside, streamside, and you can just kind of maybe take off the top, take off one side so that it lays in the surface film a little bit more naturally, and experiment with it. That is the Quill Gordon tied by Brenna Wells, who is by no means an expert at the Catskills flies. Fred, I can see him kind of grinding his teeth a bit as he takes in my attempt at a Catskills fly, but I'm okay with that. All right. Yeah, I think it'll catch fish, and that's pretty much what I'm looking for. So let's go. What do you got? Who's got pictures?
I have one.
Let's get everybody. There we go. Very nice, miss. Let's get that to the gallery. Thank you. Very nice, Mac. Good stuff. Anybody with requests? Go ahead.
Brandon.
Yeah, go ahead, Becky.
Yeah, I had two things. One, something that helps me because I'm kind of spastic with my fingers when I'm tying a lot, especially on these small flies.
Yeah.
Is I find that if I put down just a real thin coat of cement or nail polish before I wrap the quill forward.
Yeah.
That it keeps, because sometimes I'll keep letting it go, but if I put down just and it's not my idea, I saw it on a YouTube video, and it keeps the quill in place, and I seem to be able to not lose as many, have them unravel and go backwards. That's been a help for me. My other thing, what time of day would you have a hatch?
Oh, that's a lot of factors, lady.
Oh, okay, that's all right.
A lot of factors play into it, but I have found in personal experience it's late afternoon.
Okay.
I'm sure Fred could give us the relative humidity, temperature, and elevation required, but I have seen, anybody please chime in of just the optimum conditions. I don't have an answer for you there, Becky. But
that's okay. I don't need what you said is fine. Is great.
I've seen them many days in a row now on the Roanoke River, 5, 6, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. Heat of the day is over. Things are starting to come down, and you'll see them dipping around.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And of course, you've also got to just stay alert for that splashing sound. And, right now, that's pretty much what's getting the big splash out of these fish, is these dipping along the surface. So if you hear that, it's time to start looking real close at the slower water and seeing what's happening in those little spots where things are slowing down and bugs are starting to come up and out. Come on, I can't be the only person with an opinion here. Matt? Who else? Kathy? Nothing. Nope. All right, fair enough. Keep your secrets.
I'm impressed you would use a dry fly on the Roanoke River anyway.
Oh, there's plenty of spots, Matt. Come on now, I'm in Salem. There's plenty of little spots. Yes, sir. I'm 5 minutes from the Roanoke right now in this chair in Salem. I'm from Colorado Street Bridge, and I would love to be there in about 10 minutes, but I can't. it's hot right now. I know a lot of people are pulling stalkers out of there on flies, quite a few. It's kicking right now for sure. What else? Nothing else for the good of the group. I don't have much else. We're over a year now as far as COVID versions of fly time meetings. So I appreciate your attendance tonight. A lot of prep does go into these, a lot of coordination by all. So you're the motivation behind this. So please keep it coming. I really do appreciate it. And bear with me, my lens is filthy. We really enjoy having each of you here and seeing your smiling faces and just that check-in with everybody. Thank you, Phil. Absolutely. This will be recorded, as you know, and then posted. So please, a link will follow. I believe I owe you a link from last Tuesday. I'll have to double check that. But we'll put a link to the Google group where this video will live in posterity for on YouTube for those that want to come back to it later and get a fairly good instruction on how to do it. My skills are always improving too, so bear with me there, but we really appreciate your attendance and hope you all keep coming out as we grow and head towards normal again. Fred, Kathy, anything else for the group?
Nothing from me. I don't know if I'm clear, if I'm coming
No.
across clear.
Yeah, we can hear you, Kathy, just barely. I think we're good. Kathy, it helped to have your video off. I think that might have saved some of your bandwidth there.
Okay.
But if there's nothing else, I think we're in a good place. Again, if y'all have a decent photo of the one you tied, send it along and I will shower you with praises. Otherwise, we'll be back here. Oh, no. Any requests or dedications for flies to tie in the upcoming weeks, put that in the chat now or shout it out and we'll add it to the list of upcoming flies. Otherwise, you're at my mercy and it's whatever my little heart desires or what Fred makes me tie. So it's whatever you guys feel like is hitting right now. And if you're out there a lot and saying, I talked to a guy and this was working great, let us know. We'll tie it up. Otherwise, that's it. Stop the recording.